Alright, so I sort of messed up the countdown today, but that's alright. I'll go ahead and get started. It's 1:30, it's close enough. This is the time I said I would stream today, so here I am. I accidentally switched the scene over, so you saw me doing a little jog to, I don't know, wake myself up. Not that I'm asleep, it's just like the middle of the afternoon. It's like nap time. It's hard to kind of keep the energy up, especially with a vibe as chill as that was just now on the music. So that music, by the way, I use this thing called Pretzel, and you'll see the things coming up in the chat, like whenever it's like whatever song, whatever track's playing, it'll show up in the chat on Twitch. So you may have seen it already, but it's just open source or open license stuff that anybody can use. I like the chill stuff because it's not that controversial usually, right? People don't have very strong opinions about it. It's just kind of a nice background thing. But maybe that was a little too chill today. All right, well, I am getting started as you see here. One thing I wanted to say, I've adjusted a couple things here, so my volume might be a little bit louder. I listened to the playback on the last episode, and it was not great, and the captions also weren't very good, and I like the automatically generated captions on YouTube weren't amazing, so like they were worse than usual. So I think maybe I need to be louder for it to pick that up better. So I'm going to try that today. All right, so this is 1:30. Usually I've been streaming at 10:30. I do want you all to watch these live if possible, and so I want to find a time that works for as many people as possible. There's always a drop off. Like day one, I had 15. Yesterday I had 6. Right now I have 1. That's a pretty precipitous drop off, and so I know if you're watching this live, then you're doing it. That's good, right? But if like I want to find a time that will fit everyone's schedules as much as I can, but I'm only if you're actually going to watch these things live. Otherwise, I can just record these videos. I think that would be harder for you and for me, but I guess it can work. So if you are watching, whoever my one viewer is, if you don't mind saying hi, that would be helpful for me to see who's out there. I see a lot of you are online, at least in Discord. So maybe this is just not. Maybe you have other conflicts. But with I did send out that information survey, and 10 or 12 of you said you would be available at this time slot for streaming, or for class activities. So I don't know, maybe I should just do a poll and find out, like, are you actually going to watch this live ever? And if not, then maybe I'll just stop doing it. Or if there's not a majority of you that will, or if there's not enough of you. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead. This is, of course, being live cast. Hello, Alice. So this is being live cast on YouTube. You can watch it on YouTube or Twitch. I'm just monitoring Twitch for chat, and also Discord. Of course, use a live stream chat channel in Discord if you want to chat there. All right, so here's the day's notes, and I have sort of a different thing to do today, whereas I'm going to kind of explain a bit more or kind of teach a bit more than I normally do. Normally I'm doing demonstrational stuff or administrative stuff. Today this is more, I'll actually kind of talk about a few things and teach you them, hopefully. Tell you about some things you might not know about beforehand, and that's kind of what teaching is sometimes, right? Okay, so here are my slides with today's notes or kind of guided signposts, and then I've got the to-do list above me here, and so some things I want to try to cover. Okay, so the first topic I'd like to cover today, I'm calling it how to ask for help. And that is, at this point in the semester, in the week, in the class, things are starting to get pretty serious as far as what I'm expecting from you. And this is the point where usually people realize, they don't quite understand something about what they need to do, either in terms of setting up their website or in terms of completing the module work or whatever. This is a point where things start to get a little bit more real, where people are kind of like, oh, wait, actually, I thought I could put this off, but now that I've put it off and I'm trying to do it at the last minute, I don't understand how to do it. Or I'm having this problem where there's some error in my website, something that I can't figure out. So that's normal, right? That's the thing that happens. It's fine, right? First thing is, don't panic, I guess, if you find yourself stuck on something. You should take for granted, by the way, that working with computers, and even when we get to working with code a little bit later on, it's always frustrating. It's always going to be a challenge. Everyone experiences that. Even people have been doing it for a long time, like I have. So if you get to that point, it's not anything to do with you. That's the nature of this kind of problem, right? And so you will be fine. There are ways to get through it. It starts with kind of accepting the fact that it's okay to struggle, and then of course asking for help when you need that help. So to that end, let me give you a couple bits of advice, or I guess requests. The first is, ask early and ask often. Like as soon as you think you have a question, go ahead and ask. Like and literally just ask me. So you've got different channels you can do that in. You can DM me in Discord. That's probably the best way. I've also set up a troubleshooting channel. There's also email. You're not bothering me. Like if you have a problem, I want to help you solve it. So like ask and I will try to help you solve that problem. I've also set up a troubleshooting channel in Discord. It's under the text channels category, or no, it's under the information category. It's in the top. So the idea of a channel is that like you can pose a question there. I may know the answer, and hopefully I will, and I will hopefully be able to answer your question or help you solve your problem through a chat in that channel. And then that's a chat that everyone else in the class can see, and therefore if someone else has the same problem, they might see our conversation and realize that that solution that I've proposed there is also the solution they need, and then they'll solve their problem, but just by looking at that. So use this troubleshooting channel. Again, use it to post your problems, and then also use it to investigate or research your problems. See if someone else has had the same problem as you, and see if they found a solution. Also, what was I going to say? I lost my train of thought about troubleshooting. Oh yeah, the other thing about troubleshooting is that maybe someone else, like another student, will see that you've got a similar problem, and they know that another student will see your question before I do and be able to answer it even before I have a chance to. And that's great. So if you are someone who's already figured something out and you see someone post a question in troubleshooting, you know the answer, please go ahead, tell them the answer. All right, help them out and help them solve their problem. So these could be problems with WordPress, it could be issues with Twine, it could be issues with whatever platform you end up using for your creativity module, or going forward, other stuff that we're going to be doing. So whatever it is, right? The troubleshooting is just a general help thing. You can also use the individual module channels like creative coding and interactive fiction and digital audio if you have something specific to a technology or a platform within your work for that. But the troubleshooting is a good sort of generic place if you're not sure where else to do it. All right, cool. I'm up to 3 viewers. Great. Moving on. Another thing that can help a lot is if you have a particular problem, like if there's something wrong and you're trying to explain the problem to me or to whoever, it's really helpful if you have any error messages to copy and paste those if you can, or take a screenshot if you need to share what the system is telling you so that I can try to do it. Sometimes it's hard for me to interpret like the problem based on your explanation, and vice versa. It's probably sometimes hard for you to understand what I'm saying if you're not used to the terminology. But an error message or a screenshot is going to be a common denominator. It'll let me see what you're seeing, and if I understand the error message, I'll be able to solve the problem that way, or at least start Googling it. I mean, that's what I'm going to do, by the way, and you should do this too. Like Google is fine for a lot of things, and if you have an error message, a lot of times if you Google an error message, you'll find people also trying to troubleshoot that error message, and you may find a solution among those Google results. Okay, and of course, scheduling a meeting with me is something you can and should do. My appointment scheduler, when I first explained this the other day when class started, there was something wrong with it. I figured out the problem, I think. So let me just go here, show you how to use it. So this is my zachwhalen.net/contact page. Click book now. I still need to update the thing that it says there, the text, but this part should work. Let's see. Please work. There it is. Okay, great. So you can book a time. So there's 2 kinds of meetings you can schedule. The Discord is just like a DM chat, so we'll just both be online at the same time. We can turn on voice or video in Discord if it's helpful, but primarily Discord is like a text-based chat, and often that's fine. Video conference, so that's obviously, like it says, a video conference. Either of these are schedulable for 20-minute blocks. You can select one. Usually one is fine. And if we go over, it's usually okay. So click the block that works for you, and then enter your information, and then this will send you an email with the confirmation. And if it's a video conference, I will be meeting you using this system called Whereby, and this probably won't work if I'm already streaming too. Yeah, but it's whereby.com/ZachWhalen. What you'll see is if I'm online or not, and if I'm online, you'll have a button that says knock, and you can click that knock button. I will see that you're knocking and you want to enter my room, and then I will let you in if I'm not talking to someone else already, and then we can talk through whatever issue it is. And often that's a really helpful way to do it too, because you can share your screen or I can share my screen. We can actually share both of our screens, and we can get to the same page as far as whatever the problem is, right? But it all starts with scheduling, or just really reaching out if you have questions and problems as they come up. All right, so the other thing that you can do and should know about is the Digital Knowledge Center. So Usually I'm pretty available, but if I'm not available in a time you need me, the DKC is also available. As you see, appointments have to be booked 24 hours in advance with them, so that might be hard, but good. It may work. I don't know. These are some of our seniors. These three just graduated, so I love this photo shoot that they did with that old iMac. Yeah, so you book an appointment and then you go through there. I can't actually book an appointment because I'm not a student, and students, it'll take you through Banner basically to book an appointment with the tutors there, and you can meet with them. Their main thing that they do really is support domain of one's own, and that includes WordPress. So if you're having issues with WordPress and domain of one's own, they can usually help with that. I'm actually not sure who's working there over the summer, but a lot of the consultants in the DKC have taken this class, and so they know this class specifically, and a lot of them are digital studies minors or communication and digital studies majors. Notice I'm wearing the CDS t-shirt today. So yeah, a lot of them also have t-shirts like this. All right, so that's the DKC, a great resource throughout the year too if you have issues with them. Okay, so the Mimex, I guess this is the object that was created, imagined by Vannevar Bush in that essay that I asked you to read. This is As We May Think. Oh yeah, let me check off my to-do list item here. There it goes. So the Mimex, this is the device, and pretty fascinating object. I don't have the slide here with the image of it. Let me pull the slide. Yesterday's slides out because I really like I really like this image. Actually, let me see if I can get a bigger resolution of it. So I can pull it up in the tab here, talk about it just a little bit. Oh, neat. Somebody made like a 3D model of it. Oh, that's cool. So this is probably a pretty good image. Yeah, so good enough. No, that's not much bigger, but that's okay. I'll just zoom in. So this is the device, and it's described in the essay. Here's the image. Maybe it's a little hard to understand as you read through it, but you've got multiple screens set up here. You have a pad for writing at the left there, two viewing pads basically, or monitors sort of, and then you have a number of keys and buttons over here on the right. There's a lot going on in here, and a lot of things have to happen before this machine, before the scientist, as he always says, the male, before he sits down. He consistently uses masculine pronouns for the researcher, unfortunately. When they sit down, they are doing the work of science, and that is information work. And that idea of the scientist as an information worker, or the idea that there is an information labor, an information economy, is something that was brand new or really developing in the 1940s. As a result, a lot of the investment and advancement of technology that took place during World War II. And so this device is a thought piece. It's not a very practical device for a few reasons. It relies on some advancements in chemical photography, for example. And it turns out that other technologies, like real-time online displays of CRT monitors, are more practical than chemical photography at the micro scale and then manipulated this way. So it didn't end up actually being a practical device, but it's a really interesting device because whenever, I picture Vannevar Bush seeing this issue of too much information in the world, too many science papers coming out, too many reports from government agencies. There's just too much for anyone to know enough to have something meaningful to add to all that. So, how do we deal with that? He comes up with a way that a machine could augment the way that the human mind already works. And so he thinks about how human minds work via association and trails and connections. And he creates a device, or imagines a device that uses the same kind of logic. Now, there's a number of other important things that are necessary to make this possible. There needs to be some kind of cataloging system. In other words, we need to know what documents are out there and what their properties are to determine if it makes sense to retrieve them. We need to have a lookup and retrieval kind of system. A lot of the fudging, if you'll notice it in this essay, a lot of the sort of hand wavy, we'll just figure this out once we get to it. A lot of that, if you notice, is handled by women in the essay. He describes them as the girls in the back room, basically. And there's a few cases, few moments where he makes these kind of awkward phrases. And let's see. Yeah, you can't always control F very well and the perusal view of it. Maybe I could actually see it better in the live view of it. But anyway, as you see, there's that phrase here. There's the room full of girls. There's the, later on, there's the, down here in section 3, he's talking about existing devices at the time, like the voter, which is it's like a robot voice machine. Like it sounds like a robot talking. A lot of times you'll still hear people or people make different artists using vocoder kind of technology to make themselves sound like robots. It's the same idea. But it has, a girl, as it says here, stroking its keys. And in the next paragraph, there's another girl stroking some other keys. And, there's this weird, like almost like erotic language around it. Like the girl stroking its keys languidly. It's a way that clearly women are not in charge of the system. They are just kind of objects they're just part of the system. They're just a different kind of machinery here. And so when we think about information labor, like information economy, it's clear that there's a hierarchy. It's clear that there is an implied sense that there are certain people doing the quote real work of science and information. Those are the scientists. And then you have the women kind of connecting the dots and making it actually work. And unfortunately, that was a division of labor that existed for a while, and it still does to some extent. This idea that there's a gendered division of labor is something to keep in mind in any industry. But it started, if we think of this as kind of the nascent information economy and information ecology, I guess would be a better word. It's very clear that division was just taken for granted by Vannevar Bush when he described it here. Now, it didn't have to be that way. It was that way because of a series of choices. But, the women often weren't in the room to help make those choices, and that could be one reason why. It's one of those constant, like, self-fulfilling prophecy kind of things, too. Like, why aren't more women involved? And they weren't there in the beginning to make sure that women would be involved in the future, and that's one of many reasons, I think. Well, the other thing, though, like, despite his, I think, unfortunate issues or assumptions because of the time period or his own personality, I don't know. It's interesting to think about how how systems like this have actually come into existence. And I think Wikipedia is the most obvious comparison, except that there's a pretty big difference. If you think back to this, it's not just there's this like ocean of information and we can navigate it, we can surf through it on these links. It's that as a researcher, your job is to create those links. Like you see this, you realize that this is related and you connect them together. So you make a path between those two, or trail. He uses the word trail. And so now there is a connection, and that's your intellectual work. That's the work that you've done. So the person sitting here is more like a Wikipedia editor than a Wikipedia reader. They're editing Wikipedia. They're enriching the world's information by connecting it together in important ways. And then that's the thing that creates the value of Memex, is that person creating those connections. He even talks about like you could sort of publish your list of connections, which I think is pretty interesting. And in fact, Wikipedia editors, like you can look at the history of their edits and see that as a kind of publication as well, a way of sharing information. So a lot of pretty fascinating things, a lot of pretty interesting, things that it describes that are really not possible or not actually practical for even modern computers. But I think really interesting to think about. Now, if this were a live class and we were in person, I would ask for your own thoughts. I would maybe have you do some exploration of Wikipedia to look for and describe different types of informational structures like this, and then actually try it out. I might even suggest that you try to edit Wikipedia, but we don't have time to do that in a live stream like this. I don't have time. I don't have a channel to hear you interacting with that. There's only 4 or 5 of you online right now anyway. So I will just put that to you as a takeaway here. Like, you've got the annotations that you did in Perusall, that's fine. If you have more thoughts about this, if there's something that you wanted to think through or explain, or some insight that this helped you realize by reading it, that's a great use for something like a blog post. So your blog post, now that you've set it up, now that you're doing stuff for me, for my class, you also have this space that you can use for yourself. And one of the things you might want to do is reflect on the things you're learning. That actually is an assignment this week, is a weekly reflection and report. But you don't have to just do the things I ask you. I mean, it's your blog. You can post whatever you want. And if you think the Memex device is interesting, then you might want to write a little bit more about it. That would be great. Okay, Ken, that's all I had to say about that. I think this is sort of rehashing a couple things I already said yesterday. I didn't want to pull up Perusall and go through it in detail because it has your actual names on that. But I will take a look. I've already responded to a few of your questions in there. Questions are great, by the way, because if you ask a question, I can try to answer it. So, or someone else can try to answer it, and that can become a conversation. So please do that. Please, try to figure out what you can within Perusall, and hopefully we'll have a good conversation there. Okay, and by the way, to answer one question that someone asked, you do not actually have to turn in anything for that assignment. You just have to do the comments in Perusall, and that's good enough. I'll see those comments, and actually Perusall can send your quote grade back into Canvas. I'm not actually using that functionality of it, but it is possible for it to do that. That's what normally would happen. All right, I'm gonna take a drink. Down to 3 viewers. Man, what's going on? This must not be entertaining. No, it's fine. So communication norms. This is something I wanted to talk about just to kind of give you some advice about how to write on the web in particular, and also how to use Discord. I noticed in the welcome, the introduction, some of you are brand new to Discord. You've never used Discord or anything like it, perhaps. So I wanted to give you a bit of advice about it. Thinking about Discord as opposed to a blog. Those are the 2 channels that you're really using in this class. You're using your Discord for day-to-day kind of stuff, as I'm saying here, and then you're going to use your blog for longer form things like your creativity posts, like your hello world, like a few other things like that. But for Discord, it's more kind of short, snappy, immediate. We don't need a wall of text in Discord. We don't need a paragraph in Discord. We don't need 200 words in a message in Discord. One sentence, hit enter, another sentence, hit enter. That's the rhythm that you should see and that you'll see people using with Discord. Use emoji. So you can insert emoji inline. You can use emoji as a reaction to someone else's post. And these are great ways just to say like, hey, I heard what you had to say, or a great way to add more nuance to your writing. Sometimes nuance is tricky online if you're just using words. So that's why emoji can be great to kind of, shift the tone of what you're saying in a significant way. Bear in mind, I suppose, that emoji do have different meanings in different contexts and to different audiences, I suppose. But, we hopefully won't get any issues with that. I did learn recently, though, I like to use the thumbs up emoji as reaction just to say, like, I approve or I like this or whatever. I think of that as I like this. I heard a talk recently, someone was talking about emoji and, like, how younger people use emoji, and apparently they view the thumbs up as sarcastic, or like as not genuine. Like they would feel like that's someone's sarcastic approval. I certainly don't intend it that way, but that's an example of how emoji can have different meanings to different audiences. I will say, I'm not going to be able to break the habit of using it, so I don't think so. If you see me give you a thumbs up, that's a good thing. I'm not being sarcastic. I genuinely approve of whatever you've done if I give you a thumbs up. Another interesting one I've seen is that for people who think something is funny, like you don't type LOL or LMAO or ROTFL LMAO, which is what we used to do back in the early days of social media. But you'll do things like the skull emoji, or you'll say like I'm dead, or like I can't, or like the cry emoji sometimes, cry and skull back and forth, that kind of thing. That's the way to indicate laughter basically online, which I think is also pretty funny. Pretty interesting to know. Okay, GIFs are also great. I've seen a few of those. Keep it up, right? Use the Giphy. It's like a bot integration or the Giphy keyboard, whatever works for you. Okay, now the blog. So this is where you can write for however long you want. Posts can be long, multiple paragraphs. Usually short paragraphs are better than like one big long paragraph, but paragraphs, that's where if you have 200 words, 300, 3,000 words, that's a blog post. That's not a Discord message usually. Blog posts should use links. After all, the key feature of the web, the key thing that makes the web unique as a communication platform is the ability for you to link content to other content. And if you're not doing that, you're not taking advantage of it. So try to use links. I'll show you, I have a bit of advice about links on the next slide or two, but use it, do it. Links are great. If you don't know how to do a link, then that's one of those things, going back to troubleshooting, that's something you can ask for help with. It's something that's pretty easy once you know how to do it, but if you don't know how to do it, then it makes sense that you would need to ask, and I'm happy to explain it if I need to. I don't have a dashboard pulled up here, so I can't jump into like a demonstration of it right very quickly, but I will just say essentially you highlight some text, and then if you're in the paragraph editor in WordPress, highlight some text, and then a little toolbar pops out. One of the tools on that toolbar is a link icon. Click that, and then it'll ask you to paste the URL that you want to link to, and that's it. That's all you do. Also images. So images are important also because that's the other capability of the World Wide Web as defined by Tim Berners-Lee in 1990. It's this idea that we can blend different kinds of data in the same document space, in the same presentation. So that's hyperlinks, obviously, but it's also media. So it's images and text together in the same page, in the same window. So using images is a great idea. I do have some advice about images, though, because images come with some important considerations regarding copyright. And I want to make sure to mention those here. So if you are thinking about using an image in a blog post, and like I said, you should, it's good to use images. You may only use that if you have permission to use it. In other words, you cannot assume that you have permission to use an image. You need to verify that you have permission to use it. And here's how you can do that. If you created the image, like if it's a photo you took, you own the copyright to that image and you are welcome to use it. No one can tell you not to. That's your image. The other situation is if the person that created it has given you permission to use it. All right. The fact that you find an image on Google has no bearing at all. That does not mean that you're allowed to use it. Google did not produce those images, by the way. And so if you cite an image and you say, like, here's an image, the source is Google, that is not the source. That is incorrect. And so do not do that. Do not assume that it's okay to post an image that you find on Google. And then also don't assume that it's okay to cite Google as the source for the image, because they are not the source for that image. That is meaningless. And in fact, even if you do know who the photographer is, giving them credit is actually not enough anyway. Like, that does not avoid copyright liability, in your case, infringement liability. So you do need to make sure that you do it right. Something else you'll see sometimes when people say, you know, this photo was taken by so-and-so, no copyright infringement intended. Doesn't mean anything, right? Even if you didn't mean to infringe copyright, you still did. So there can be consequences for that. I will tell you the worst consequences that I've ever faced for posting content that I didn't have permission to is that I got a takedown notice. So I got a legal letter from a lawyer saying you have to take this off your website. I said, okay, fine, and I took it off. It wasn't a big deal. But it could be a big deal. You can be sued. You can be taken to court for posting copyrighted images without permission. It's never happened to me or any of my students. But it is possible, and even if it's rare, it's something you, I think, want to avoid, and also I think just ethically have a reason to avoid. Okay, so fair use is now. So going back, what we're looking for is permission from the photographer or the artist, permission from the person who made this to use it. And most of the time, if you find something interesting online, you're not going to be able to get them to write you a letter saying, yes, you have permission to use this on your website. Instead, there are a couple of concepts that you can employ to act as though you have permission. So fair use is a copyright concept. It does give you permission to use copyrighted material in specific situations. It's a fuzzy concept, though. I mean, legally, it's a fuzzy concept. And it's not ironclad. It's not bulletproof. It's not actually even a bright line. Like, there's not a very clear application of it. If you're using someone's photograph and you're using that entire photograph, you almost certainly don't have a fair use argument because you're using 100% of the work. Some people will say you can only use up to 10% of it or only 100 words of it or something like that. There is actually no threshold defined in the statute. So it's really a situational kind of thing and really not that reliable. I mean, it's useful, but not super reliable. Creative Commons, though, is a much more reliable apparatus that is a legal concept that lets you use work that is copyright free. So if you're looking for work that's copyright free, so a couple of things you can do. So let's say you're looking on, you can look on Google Images and let's say a snowy field. I don't know. If you're looking for an image of a snowy field, so you might see some of these and think, oh, this is pretty good, and you might want to use it. Some of these I can tell just at a glance actually are copyright free, or that they have different conditions on them. So let's see, like here in the Google image search tool, you can actually filter by usage rights. So you can say, well, right now this is showing all of the images of snowy fields that exist, but let's only look at images that have Creative Commons licenses on them. Okay, so this is something we might be able to work with. So these are some other nice looking snowy field images, I suppose. And looking down here, I can see some of these are hosted on wikimedia.org, which is the service sort of behind Wikipedia. There's Pixabay, Flickr, like these are common photo sharing websites. So let's take a look at this one here. It's not necessarily the best, but let's take a look at this particular image. All right, so this is an image here, and looks fine, I suppose. But notice that it's been released with Creative Commons licensed language here. So this is a legal statement here. The photographer, who is Tiamonto, has said that you, as in you, literally, or me, are free to share, remix, attribute, to share and to remix this, as long as we attribute it and then we don't copyright it ourselves. So in other words, we can put this on our blog as long as we say this is a photo by Tiamonto, CC licensed, and then we have to make sure we can't copyright it ourselves. We can't say, oh, this is my image. So share alike just means we have to give other people permission to use our version of it if we make a derivative version of it. So that's Creative Commons, and that's giving you permission. So if I see a photo on your blog, or if I see this photo on your blog, I will expect to see a caption or a note somewhere that says, the snowy field image is CC licensed by Tiamonto, and you can actually say, this is CC attribution share alike unported license. So you can, the abbreviation for that is just CC by SA, and so you can also just say CC by SA Tiamonto. Okay, so I expect you to do this. If you're writing content on your blog, I want it to be licensed. Now, something else you can do if you just want to get license-free things that are just you're allowed to use, you can look at a few other websites. So Pixabay is it's like a stock photo website, and they sell things that have licenses and also things that don't have licenses. This one has a Pixabay license, which I'm thinking is pretty similar to Creative Commons. Yeah, this looks like it's very similar to Creative Commons, and so you'd have a similar kind of thing to cite there. The other thing that I often do if I just need a generic kind of flavoring image, and like a lot of the ones on the Canvas course are that kind of thing. You can get things from this website, unsplash.com. So if you want to go here, and you saw a few actually come up in the search results initially, perhaps. Snowy field. Every image here from unsplash.com is in the public domain, meaning you are allowed to use it. So Simon Berger, who created this image, has uploaded it with the understanding that everyone is free to use it. And so you can download it here. It is nice to give them credit to it, but you don't technically have to. So again, if you like this image, you want to use it as your header in a blog post or something, you can do that. Okay, so that's just a bit about images. Don't want to belabor it too much. If you have questions, or if you are ever unsure about a particular thing, it doesn't hurt to ask. You're welcome to ask. I'm happy to try to explain if I know the answer. All right, so let's talk about writing. So when you're working on your blog, there are some things to think about in terms of how links work. Not technically. I mean, thinking about them technically is important. You need to make it a clickable link to somewhere. But what I mean about considerations here is where to put it in your writing. So where does the link appear? Now, I saw some of you writing things kind of like this. Not this particular text. This is just something I wrote. But this is the idea. This is something that I often see where there's a paragraph, another paragraph, and then there's just a few URLs down at the bottom. These are arguably not links, because the only way to access this particular link, so it's http://idma.org, would be for me to copy it, open another tab, paste it, hit enter, and go from there. That's like 3 or 4 steps. We want to save our readers steps, and the easiest way to do that is just make it a clickable link. Sometimes WordPress will just make this URL a clickable URL, so that's a little better, but it's still awkward, it's still ugly, it still kind of hangs out in the middle, adds all this junk to your writing. A much better version of this writing is, I would argue, what I have here in version 2, and this is the same text, but I have now integrated links into my text as opposed to putting the URLs at the bottom. This is much better. I really want you, if you're writing on a website or in a Canvas post or anything else where you have the ability to do links in line, you should do it like this. This is how links are meant to work. This is the most rhetorically smooth way of doing it. It's just think about something that you've already written that is the name of the thing you're linking to, and then make that name the link to that thing. That's how to do it. Pretty common sense, actually, once you get used to it, once you get the hang of it. And once you realize that this is a way to do it, you'll see it everywhere. Most like journalistic kind of websites, like websites that have links in them, reporting with links, they'll have links built in like that. It's much easier to read, I think, than this. All right, it breaks it up visually, and it also makes it easier and more efficient to work with. Okay, so that's it for writing. Okay, finally today I wanted to talk about 3 examples of digital creativity and explore them a little bit on the stream here, and invite you to explore them a little bit more on your own. These are 3 different 3 examples that will probably lead to a few more examples of the 3 creativity modules that I've asked you to choose from in your work this week. So your first choice is one of those 3 choices is interactive fiction, and I thought I would demonstrate in a little bit more detail an example of some interactive fiction. So this is a Twine game, and I do recommend Twine if you're thinking about interactive fiction. If you're thinking about that for your module, what you would be doing is reading some Twine games, playing some Twine games, and then trying to make your own. You know, that's all there is to it, basically. But let's take a look at this one. I just came across this one this morning, actually, and I really liked it, so I thought I would share. It's a little meta. Like, it does include some references to other Twine games, and it also is pretty funny and in a kind of tongue-in-cheek or sarcastic kind of way. That might not be for everyone, I suppose, but it is. I mean, I like it, so you might like it as well. It's by Crows, which is, you may know other work by them. William Pugh is one of the writers of Stanley Parable, which is a popular very meta kind of video game. A game about video games, sort of, and quite funny. And this is also pretty funny, similar kind of humor, I think. So the way Twine works, as you know, is clicking on links. So let's try it out. This game is made in Twine. Click. And as you see, the humor starts here. Yeah, well, nobody's perfect. Click on underlined words to play. So that's what we do to get started. I'm going to click on these underlined words. Okay, so I'm going to play through a few screens of this, not the whole thing, because I want you to experience it yourself. I want you to make your own decisions, and I might, well, if I had more viewers, I would maybe ask for suggestions as I'm going through here and making choices. I don't know if I have enough. We'll try it. I may pose a question for you to try to answer. It looks like my stream is like 10 or 30 seconds behind me talking, but that's all right. Okay, so it says, this story may frighten and disturb you, but if you have a strong, smart stomach, a smart brain box, and a cool face, then perhaps you're brave enough to hear it. So we've got 2 links we can click on. I'll start with the story. The story dash what? Please don't interrupt me while I'm explaining what's about to go down. This story may frighten and disturb you, but if you have a strong stomach, a smart brain box, and a cool face, then perhaps you're brave enough to hear it. Okay, story is still a link. You see, when I clicked on that, it just popped a new sentence in here. So I'm going to do this again. The story. Listen, this is a Twine. You're acting like you've never played a Twine before, so please just... The story may frighten and disturb you. So this is still here. There is audio on this. I don't know if it's coming in yet. I do see desktop audio. Hang on a second. I can't hear. I don't have speakers turned on, so. Yeah, there's some audio coming from it. I think it's just sort of ambient sound at this point. So, yeah, let's keep going. This story. What, seriously? Never played a Twine before? Well, you're about to be spoiled because it's going to be the best Twine ever made. Yeah, that's right. Even better than the beginning of Firewatch. Was that made with Twine too? I don't know. This is Twine. This joke isn't funny anymore, and it's your fault for continuing to click on it. Don't do this again. Okay, and so now you can't click on it anymore. This Twine may frighten and disturb you, but if you have a strong stomach, a smart brain box, and a cool face, then perhaps you're brave enough to hear it. Let's see. Brave like a storm, a bear, or a sailor? When I played this earlier today, I chose that I was brave like a storm. But I think for today, I'm going to be brave like a bear. Enough of that. This isn't about you. Anyway, are you ready? I don't know. Are we ready? I think I'm ready. Yes. All right. Good. This is a story that took place a long time ago. Hey, the word story is a link again. Let's click on it. That's it. This is a right. That's not right. That is not more of these that took place a long time ago. It's a good one. All right. So now we have images, and this is a Twine game that uses images. It's obviously possible to do that. This is the large dusty tome, and it just sort of, with the sound, you got the impression that it kind of fell from the sky and landed in front of us. It's called A Big Fat Book. It's called The Brave Explorer, The Jungle of Doubt, and The Temple of No, presented by Crows. And you can see, oh, brave like a bear. It's annotated like a bear. That was, it's annotated with the choice I made earlier. Oh, by the way, I need to check that off. Well, let's begin. I feel like we've been beginning for a while. Okay, so this is a magical book. Its magic power is to be incredibly relatable. Are we a woman, a bloke, or a frog? I feel like being a frog today. Okay, I'm going to level with you. You're playing the real game here. I had to write a whole load of bullshit about subverting the expectations of Twine games for the man and woman options, and to be honest, I don't think those jokes are brilliant. This frog story is actually genuinely what this whole game is about. I think whichever option you choose, you get a similar message. In fact, I'm going to now stop putting any actual effort into writing the other branches of dialogue, and I am going to focus entirely on this one. Well done for picking the interesting option. I hope you like it. Let's go. Old Slimeface lived in Slimy Bottom, a small fishing village down in the heart of Yorkshire. It paddled a small boat around and ferried smaller animals to and fro from each side of the pond, and on Sundays, it'd paddle down to the animal market and buy 12 fly cakes, one for each of its tadpole children. But this Sunday was different. There was a strange taste in the air as it paddled down the stream. It knew in its cold-blooded, froggy heart that it missed the days of wild adventure. In its youth, it had traveled the world and explored new, non-froggy areas. Many of its discoveries had shaped the development of frog culture and frog history, but after enjoying the quiet life, Froggo knew it was time to step foot into the world of adventure once more. Now, here's a crash course on our frog's old adventure history. Slimeface lost an eye in a massive effing fight with a baboon. It killed the baboon, and it is one badass frog. Don't F with this frog. Forgot to say, there's some language in this. It once traveled to Antarctica and stole 22 penguin eggs. It is a master of stealth, and it could sneak up on you and break your neck easily. Really easily. Frog Legs over here jumped over an entire fence, like a human-sized fence, to escape a frog prison compound set up by the UK government after Frog uncovered their evil plot to attempt to rig the frog elections. It then went back and saved all the other frogs, and you should be thanking its froggy eyes. Okay, you're ready. Let's get down straight into the story. So it's got a dramatic transition here, and then it proceeds. So I'm gonna stop here because there's quite a bit more, but it's pretty funny to explore on your own, and I want you to do that. I encourage you to do that. So this is the slideshow is actually linked to it. There's a link to this in the notes for today. So wait, is there? Oh, you know what? There isn't. I should fix that. But yeah, just take a second here. So you remember how I was saying how links should work, right? So the Temple of No is the title of this thing that I want you to visit, and so I will make that the link to it. There we go. So that is Twine. Now I would like for you to play this game and tell me your thoughts on it. Basically, this is something for the general channel in Discord, because the idea is that even if you aren't doing the interactive fiction module, I want you to see what interactive fiction is. And this is, I think, a pretty good introduction to the format. The whole game takes about 10 minutes to play through, at least it did for me. I think it probably is worth a replay. Like, you probably will feel like starting over again and making different choices to see what happens. But like a single straightforward playthrough, about 10 minutes. And that's probably good enough to give you a decent introduction to the idea. But share your thoughts, your questions, your observations in Discord. Use the general channel for that. Okay, so next up, I want to talk a bit about Twitter bots, and I really like Twitter bots. I've been making them for a while. Actually, I sort of dropped off. I have not made one for a while now that I think of it, but there was a period from like 2013 to 2017 or so where I was making a lot of them. I've made like 50 or so. Yeah, maybe, actually, no, more like 40, 30. 35, 40, something like that. Anyway, these are Twitter accounts that are automated, so they're going to be posting content automatically. When you think about Twitter bots, you might think about spam bots or misinformation bots. That's not what we're creating here. That's not what I have created. These are artistic bots or literary bots or joke bots in some cases. And one that I really like is Tiny Starfield by Everest Pipkin. And this is a link to the live version of it. It looks like it actually has stopped a little over a month ago. That's the thing. A lot of these bots run on automatic software that just runs periodically to post tweets. And at least mine, I have one that I have several that I run off of a Raspberry Pi. It's a tiny little computer like over there, and it sometimes just freezes up, and I have to go in and reboot it. Not a big deal. It's the kind of thing that when it happens, when it crashes, I don't necessarily know that it's crashed unless I check my bots and then I might notice like, oh, this hasn't posted for a couple days. That might be why. So that might be what's going on here with Everest's bot. I don't really know, but they may have also just decided to shut down the bot. I mean, that's also their prerogative and their choice. But what I like about this one is its simplicity. Like, it's a series of Unicode characters. So these are typographic characters from the Unicode character set, which has millions and millions of characters in it, like all the letters of all the different alphabets around the world, all of the emoji, quite a few geometric shapes, and that's what a lot of these are. And it just arranges them randomly into these nice looking constellations or things that might be constellations, and kind of suggest a sense of like looking up at the sky. So it's just a very pleasant little bot, and if you follow this bot and if it's actively tweeting, you'll just see it on your timeline periodically of a nice little star field. It kind of breaks up the noise and stress of all the other things people are tweeting about. So I like following it, and it's an example of what you can do with the creative coding module. In fact, does Everest? I don't know if they make the source code available. Yes, I don't know how exactly they programmed this. One thing they might be doing with it, though, is using Cheap Bots Done Quick, which is a service for making bots. And let's see. There we go. So I'm not going to actually tweet with it like this. This is pretty ugly looking, but this is the the source code looks like. It's essentially a template kind of thing, and so I've got a variable called doer, and then I'm just having it fill in that variable randomly. It just picks a random item from this list. So I can imagine Everest creating the bot with the tiny starfield bot just by creating lots of different symbols for those typographic characters that look like stars, and then having it pick a random group of them, and then pick another random group of them, 4 or 5 lines, and then call that a tweet. So if you re-roll this, you'll see kind of how this works. This little snippet is an excerpt from one of the bots I created. Well, I'll show it to you in a second because I wanted to show you this other one first. So, I mean, this is what I would think of as an artistic bot. There are others. The other one that I have linked in the notes for today is the roof slopping bot. And this is a bot by Darius Kazemi. The way that this so this bot is pretty silly. It takes a meme, like the meme that is usually accompanied with this image, and it's like a stupid joke template meme kind of thing where, and this is now a few years old as far as memes go at this point, but the joke of this was like, this bad boy, the dealer slaps the roof of whatever the vehicle is, and then says this bad boy can fit so many whatevers in it. Usually just kind of surreal, random kind of stuff. In this case, Darius has used something called ConceptNet to get a group of related concepts and constructed tweets in ways that actually make sense. So, slaps roof of a library, this bad boy can fit so many books in it. ConceptNet knows that a book is a kind of thing that can be in a library. This one is also pretty funny. Slaps roof of a submarine, this bad boy can fit so many heads in it. Kind of a weird way to say it, but literally true, I suppose. So yeah, it's a joke bot. It's one way to think about this bot is Darius has said, like, one of his earlier bots, 2 headlines. He said that he wrote somewhere that he noticed a particular kind of joke people were making over and over again on Twitter, and he thought, this is such a lazy, kind of pointless joke. I can write some code that will make this joke over and over again so it's not funny anymore. And I think this bot does sort of accomplish that. I was similarly inspired to create this bot, House Budgets, which is just tweeting out endless variations on a joke that often people make about house hunters, where the joke is that the people looking for whatever the homes are, they have ridiculous jobs and ridiculous budgets. And so people had fun making up, as a meme, like making up different kind of ridiculous scenarios for house hunters. I thought it was a pretty lazy kind of joke, and so I thought it would be possible to automate it, and so that's what I did. I wrote this one, I coded it using Cheap Bots Done Quick, and yeah, I mean, I don't think it's funny anymore, but it's something that does still get interaction, and some people seem to enjoy it. That's fine, I suppose, but it's pretty much, I feel like it's really pretty much run the joke into the ground, and I don't think it's that funny anymore. And that's kind of my, my mission accomplished, I guess. But, sometimes, I mean, these scenarios are kind of funny to imagine. Like, I run a startup for porpoises, and I make corsets for buffaloes. Our budget is $2.9 million. So, whatever. Okay, so there are other bots I've made that I'm more proud of, I guess. This is one I've been working on a little bit in the past few days. I'm trying to release a new version of it. And what this does is it takes images from astrophotography or telescopes, mostly Chandra Array and Hubble, and then it runs them through an image glitching algorithm called pixel sorting, and then tweets out the results. And sometimes the results are pretty striking. This is a really good one, I think. It randomizes the parameters, so everyone is slightly different. But one of the things that I've been a little bit, I guess, annoyed by, it does seem to be doing a lot of the same kinds of things. And also, I do want to give credit to the original photographers. I mentioned copyright earlier. These images are all technically not under copyright because they're produced by NASA, or many of them are, most of them aren't, produced by NASA. And yet there are credits for the images. And so what I'm working on in the new iteration is adding a way for me to indicate the who took the photographer, who took these photographs, like the astronomers' names or the laboratory where they actually took it. And I'm going to be adding that in. It's a tedious process, so I don't know how much longer it'll take me to get all them figured out, but yeah, it's what I'm working on. Somebody interacted with this one. It's just sad face. I don't know why. Okay, those are Twitter bots. If you want to make Twitter bots, I like them a lot. I'm happy to help you make them. Finally, the other example of digital audio is something that I wanted you to share. Now, this is not, so this is an episode of Radio Lab, and this is a radio show. You can listen to it on our local NPR stations if you're in Fredericksburg. I don't actually know when it airs because I usually just listen to the podcast version of it, so I don't usually hear it if I'm driving around. But it's quite good, and what I like about it is I think the reporting is okay. I think sometimes I feel like the reporting is a little bit kind of sensationalized or kind of like it focuses on the fun stuff and not the serious stuff sometimes. That's fine. I just wish it would go a little deeper sometimes. What I really like about it is that as you listen, you'll hear lots and lots of intentional sound design. And what I mean by that is if a reporter is telling a story and they want to quote somebody, like in traditional print journalism, you would write quotation marks and then there would be their quote. But in Radiolab, what you'll often hear is you'll say, according to Dr. Whalen, and then they'll drop in a sound clip of that person saying that thing, and then exit that sound clip, and then back to the main reporter with their narration. So it's a way of doing quotation that I find really interesting and really effective because they do it very smoothly. You almost don't even notice it. So there's that. There's also just sound effects and atmospheric things that give you a sense of space. This particular episode talks about crickets in the first story, and so there are lots of sounds of crickets and different sounds of crickets, and they're used dramatically in certain ways. So lots of really interesting and very intentional sound design. And if you're thinking about digital audio, I would love for you to experiment with something like this. I mean, obviously what you do is up to you, and you don't have to do intentional sound design. I just want to make sure you are aware of what's possible. As far as recording a podcast on your own, there are certainly tools that you can use that are pretty intuitive and beginner friendly. Anchor is probably the best one that I can recommend for if you want to do podcasting. But you don't really have to do podcasting. You probably don't have time to develop a whole podcast series over the next 2-3 days. So if you just think about it in terms of sound design, I think it would be really interesting to use something like Audacity or Soundtrap to mix a 5-minute audio story together that has words of you talking perhaps guests or whatever, but then that uses sound effects and ambient sound and music to craft and direct that story. I think that would be really interesting. So I think the Radiolab episode might be inspirational, and that might be something you're interested in doing something like that. Okay, so I'm getting ready to wrap up. I'm at about, what am I, 56 minutes, so should probably wrap up soon. And I want you each to take a look at and comment on each of these three things. So even if you're not doing digital audio, I do want you to listen to this podcast. It is linked in it's linked in the notes for today. I would like for you to do that. I also would like for you to check out some Twitter bots. So here's a Tiny Starfield. What you might be interested in doing to explore more bots is, I don't have it here. Is look for a Meta account. So here's one called Lottie McNally, or the Twitter handle is Bot Ally. And if you look at all of the accounts that this bot is following, or just if you look at it, it just retweets anyway. So this is a bot that follows a couple thousand, 1,500 or so other Twitter bots. And these are going to be interesting Twitter bots, like literary and artistic Twitter bots. So not spammy kind of bots. And pretty good stuff. So do they have any lists? I wonder if they have any. I don't know, but you can see there. I think the person who runs this has stopped updating it. But if you look at who it's following, you might see a few. Just scroll down and kind of see poop in my jewelry. I don't know what that is. You might see some that are pretty unusual. And if you do find one you like, either through this method or some other method, then please share it with us in Discord, because I would love to see what you find interesting. And just kind of looking through these, I mean, like I said, I know a lot of these, but these are 1,500 or so, and that's a lot. I don't know all of these. Welcome to the Museum of Just One Bow Tie. I like that. Okay, so that's, Twitter bots. Check them out. And, of course, play the Temple of No and let me know what you think in the general channel. Okay, so checklist for today, checking that off. The checklist for the week. This is the final thing, and this is included in the notes at the end of today. So here's what you should have by the end of this week. So today is Thursday. I will not be streaming tomorrow. So like I said at the outset, it's 4 days of streaming or content from me. Everything is due on Friday though. So I imagine many of you will be working on things tomorrow. That's fine. I will be hiking most of the day tomorrow, so I won't be online to check and answer emails until later in the afternoon. But I will get to you when I can. Really three major things that you're responsible for by midnight tomorrow. So you need to have your domain registered, you need to have a blog on that domain, and you need to have at least one post on that blog introducing yourself and talking about the world. There's a couple of birds fighting over here. I was trying to see what they are. Look like a couple of house finches. Okay. Anyway, 2 female house finches, which is interesting because I saw 2 male house finches fighting earlier today, and I wonder if there's like the same couple is defending their territory or something. I don't know. Anyway, for the digital creativity module, you're essentially going to have to do at least 3 things for this. So there's the work of whatever you do as far as making a Twine game or an audio story or a Twitter bot or whatever. But in terms of the work for this class, the work with respect to this class, there should be 1 initial blog post, 1 final blog post, and then a short video where you explain what you did and reflect on it. That short video should be 60 to 90 seconds, and you should share that in the share channel in Discord. Okay, and then as we may think, that's the essay here. Thanks, Alvin. Yeah. We're going to do Old Rag tomorrow for the first time with my kids. I mean, I've done it with one of my daughters, but I'm going to take a couple more kids with me tomorrow. Should be a challenge. Should be fun. And then reading comments on that story in Perusall, the essay in Perusall, and then the weekly reflection report. I recommend doing this as a blog post. You can do it as something else. This is something where I do give you the option of posting or recording or sharing this privately if you'd like, but it needs to be turned in Canvas. So whatever it is, make sure you do it that way. Okay, so, and I think a couple of you, I've already turned that in last I checked, so that's fine, I suppose. Just make sure that you update it with anything else you did today. Yeah, actually, I just got 1. Okay, so, I'm looking at so it looks like only 8 hello worlds have come in so far. That means I hope everyone else is planning on doing that, today or tomorrow. This is a class that you can do on your own time, but if you wait until Friday to do everything that's due this week, it's going to be harder, and, I guess I guess you realize that if that's the situation you're in. But I do encourage you to do these things in order anyway, even if you are doing them all on one day. So make sure you go back and watch the videos in order. Make sure you work through the notes in order. There are ways that this is scaffolded. So there are things that you need later on that you're going to do first. So, make sure that you follow that order. Yeah, if you have any questions for me, you can always send me things. And the nice thing about Discord, it's immediate. If I see your message, I can respond to it, but it's also asynchronous too. So if you send me a message and I can't respond at the moment, then I won't. All right, I'll just respond whenever I get back to when I get back to civilization or whatever I need to in order to respond. Okay, well, I'm going to wrap it up then. Thanks for watching the stream. If you have issues or questions, as always, just let me know. Let me get my music back up here. All right, so have a good afternoon, and I will not be streaming again until Monday. I might send out a survey to find out people's opinions about the streaming time and whether or not they intend to watch live at all. So keep an eye out for that, I suppose. Otherwise, unless you hear otherwise, then I will plan on streaming in the morning again on Monday. All right. Let me get my... Oh, this isn't working. Sorry, I'm working on my little outro screen. The video isn't loading. Oh well, that's okay. I'll just switch over. Yeah, so have a good day. See ya.